in service learning work, we talk about how you don't ask what are we going to investigate first, you say who are we going to investigate first, and it should always rest with the people that are in the room. So there's a lot of really good DEI work being done out there that you can bring into your classroom space that does this kind of identity work, so that you've created the space to then move on to what do we need to investigate. And because you're always having to look through the lens of the self, and so this is a really unique space to be able to do that. And so now that Tina has given some of those tools, we also wanted to share a few other tools that really help us look at diversity and privilege in the investigation stage, so we're carrying that with us as we go back. And some of the other ones that we provided for you that Tanina has already referenced are things like Wheels of Diversity. This is something that's a tool that Kathleen Berger-Kay has shared with us. And this, as opposed to this other one that Tanina had shared, that has, has all the layers, and maybe a little more advanced than, say, the one that's blank. But this offers another opportunity and another entry point to be able to get to this stage. And so one of the other things we could have done today was blow this up on our papers here in the middle, and we would have put diversity in the center and maybe have you build your own definition of what diversity means to you, because that also helps you start with the self, where you construct your own definition based on what you know and what your experience is with it, and dialogue about it. So you would start with diversity and define it, 10 words or less, images, things like that, and then you would have students talk about the categories that they know. So it's so helpful and so important to build off of prior knowledge. And from there, you could talk about, based on those identities, what are some of the privileges that people experience from that. And that's kind of where Tanina's entry point was. But this is another layer back that you could use. And I wanted to have Kathy share a little bit about the image that's included in those resources, because I think it's a really nice example of how you do include diverse perspectives when you're defining identity. So if you want to share it.
So I developed this quite a while ago, this learning experience on a diverse world. And when I was looking at, I love when students define their own language, because then I know from how they construct the definition what they know and what they don't know. So in thinking of what I always have students, in addition to coming up with the words, like 10 words or less to define something, I often ask them to also include an image. I want to give an example of an image of the word diversity. I knew I could not create that. That was definitely not it. So I was thinking, who could I draw upon in the field of people I know who could create that image? And at the time I was doing it, I knew a young man named Jake Tashjian. Years ago, his mother, Janet Tashjian, spoke here. Does anyone remember Janet Tashjian speaking at this meeting? She's an author. She's written an incredible book. She's done the whole My Life is a Book series. My Life is a Book, My Life is a Stunt Boy, My Life is a whole wonderful series of books. And she's also done other books that I love. So you can look her up, Janet Tashjian, Tashjian, including a great book called Vote for Larry, which is about elections, and we forgot to put it on our list. So jot that down, Vote for Larry. It's a great book. Anyway, when she was writing her first book of this series, Vote for My Life is a Book, she wrote it because her son Jake was struggling with learning how to read, because Jake is Asperger's. He's on the spectrum. And school is not working for him. So she decided to learn all the different theories and ways to teach learning, to read, and she tried them on her son until she found what worked, so she could educate the school on how to really teach her son. And one of the ways he found entry points into learning how to read was to draw stick figure characters to define words. So when she wrote the book, My Life is a Book, Jake, her then 13-year-old son, drew 300 definitions of words in that book. It is and the book has a service learning theme in it. I mean, she didn't even know she was writing service learning books until I told her those are service. But Jake drew all of her illustrations for the 6 books in the series, so he's made over 1,800 stick figure illustrations of vocabulary words. These are great books, really good for grades 3 and 4, 2, 3, and 4, especially reluctant boy readers. So if you're looking for boy books, they're good for anyone, but they're just great books. So I reached out to Janet, who I knew, and I asked her if I could possibly ask Jake to draw a stick figure image of diversity. And he gifted me with this drawing.
Wow.
And you have it in your packet as well. And later she told me normally he would draw his stick figure drawings in a few minutes, and that's when I knew I could ask him, well, what's going to be. No, he labored on this. This took him a long time to describe or to come up with what diversity meant for him in the stick figure world. So does anyone have any thoughts on how this image may or may not capture diversity? Any response to Jake's drawings? I think he was about 15 when he did it. Any thoughts on this?
Now I think kids would add some fish or some sort of other form of life in the water.
I think they could. But if you look up his drawings, make students want to draw like this, and it can turn it. If students make stick figure drawings, there's all kinds of things they can use. So just want to give you one example of what Jan and I talked about how his stick figure drawings can be used. Students who do these kind of drawings, if there's a student who's learning, you know people who may be disabled and they have to point to word cards. Very often they don't cover a lot of words they want. And so you could use these kind of kids could make words about vocabulary words they know other teens would like to express. Tell people also to learn language. There's many ways you could use this skill that Jake has so readily. So that's the story of this drawing, and I hope that helped clarify what it is and who it comes from. And I appreciate the whole idea of how do you bring voices in, and that was one way I brought voices into this process.